are joined by living legend Kenny Dope Gonzalez, world-renowned globe-trotting DJ, Grammy-nominated producer and recording artist. But that's just the tip of the iceberg, okay, folks? It all started out in Brooklyn, New York, Sunset Park to be exact, in the 70s. That's when he was exposed to a variety of music genres, living in a multicultural neighborhood. It was the 80s where he discovered this emerging new music called hip-hop. And he would later work at a record store, and later with his good friend Mike Delgado, they would throw parties under the name Masters at Work. Later on, he would connect with Todd Terry, who's a Brooklyn icon and house DJ, and he would go on to work with Little Louie Vega, making tons of hits. But I could keep going, but I would be replicating a lot of the other existing interviews that are out there. Instead, I want to share something with you that I thought really intrigued me as I was researching Kenny Dope. You see, we're a lot like Kenny when it comes to describing the connection that we have to vinyl records, the distinct sounds that come in the songs, and how we try and figure them out and talk about it amongst our friends. And while we've had a lot of great collectors on here from California, there were some similarities that I noticed between Kenny and folks like Rene Ruelas when they talk about the importance of sound quality. Or maybe we talk about Joe Night Owl Ontiveros and how his importance of sharing the music that he loves so much relates very similar to what Kenny has done with KD Records. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome the one and only Kenny Dope. Kenny, thank you so much for being here.
What's up? What's up? Thank you. For the long intro.
It's like, hey, we trimmed it down 3 times already. It's been through review 3 times.
Nah, that's what's up. That's, you're doing your thing.
So, you know, where I really want to start is with something very important. I would love to know what you remember about the first time you met Mike Noriega. And of course, Mike, I want to ask you the same. How'd y'all two connect?
Through the internet.
Yeah, it was through the gram. You know, I sent him like a little care package, and you know, always thought I liked his music. And then I think he hit me up about a certain track that he liked, one of the something on our label, and I shot him one, and he bought some things, and just back and forth, like, hey, you know, what do you think about this and that, and you know, just kind of like more or less, we're just getting to know each other more now than ever.
Okay.
Yeah, it was pandemic time, really. You know, like Mike said, it was just. There was some joints that he had, and I hit him up, and I'm like, records are crazy, you know, and that's where it all started, you know, pretty much, you know, and you know, we kept in touch here and there, but like he said, now it's starting to, you know, link up and talk and stuff like that, you know.
Okay, very cool. Again, one of the things I mentioned earlier was the contrast between New York and California, and you being one of our first guests from New York, I would love it if you could kind of explain the environments and the types of music that you heard growing up in Brooklyn, New York, and talk about maybe the first time that you remember kind of going for, say, Soul 45s, maybe who introduced you. I know you dig, you know, with not just anybody, so who were you with, where was it, and what did you get?
or what kind of inspired you to even want to collect 45s? Because I know a lot of guys, I know when I started, to be honest, it was a lot of 12-inch, you know, and people think that I started collecting Soul first, which wasn't true. I was collecting 12-inch.
Right.
I was messing around with DJing and stuff like that, and then I got into the oldies after the fact. But, you know, that was into the later 80s. But in the mid-80s, I was collecting 12-inch. You know, I was going down to Melrose and going to Dance Music Center and buying 12-inch in the 80s. I think a lot of us started in 12-inch.
But you know what's crazy? I'm going to go back a little bit further than that because I think the first time I got into 45s, I must have been like 5 or 6 years old.
Well, yeah, that was the format.
There was a photo of me, and I took all my uncle's records out, and they were all over the floor. 45s,
yeah,
records, 45s, soul Motown records, and he caught a heart attack. And that was the beginning of it. Not knowing later on that I seen this photo, my mom had shown photo of me in the middle of all these records, and I'm like, wow, that. She's like, you know what? That's your infatuation with those little records. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's kind of like it was embedded in you from then.
Right, but I didn't even know it. Like, so, yeah. You know, in the 80s, hip hop was coming in. I was heavily into breakbeats. Like, I love breaks. You know what I mean? So that was the beginning for me. in the store, like you mentioned earlier. In that store, there was a cutout section where that's where the beats were. You know what I mean? And
right.
them dollar bins. You know, so from the breaks, and hip hop being heavily sampled at that time, you know, I just got into the 45s, man. You know, there was a store in the city called Downstairs, which was actually upstairs. That I started going, you know, at the age of 15. This was 1985.
Yeah.
And in that store, you know, 45 King shop there, Grandmaster Flash shop there. There's so many different DJ shop there. And what was crazy about that store, you had to become cool with the sellers at the store, because each of the sellers dug their own breaks, and they would have their own breaks for their customers.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Their own.
It's similar like that in Cali. Like, if you go into a record store now, if you don't know the go-to guy, you're not going to get fed. You know, you're just going to go in the regular area, but the go-to guy, he might say, hey, I got a box in the back right here. You got to look through this. This is like some new shit that just came in. Like, just go ahead and dig through, and, you know, we'll figure it out. And that's for any record store out here in Cali. You know, you got to know the guy. If you don't have the go-to guy, you ain't getting fed.
And honestly, that's where it started. So, you know, at that time, there was a lot of bootleg breaks, so to speak. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, that were being sold, that were pressed up. They wasn't the original, but we didn't know that. You know, we didn't know those titles were wrong, or those artist names were wrong. You know, but that's where it began. And then as you keep going, then the Ultimate Breaks and Beats comes in. That's another history lesson there. So for me, I wanted to collect the original records. So I was trying to get the original records. So think about it. You got hip hop, you got the 45s, you got the Ultimate Breaks and Beats, and hip hop keeps coming out, you sampling new stuff. You know, you start learning about Skull Snaps, you start learning about, you know, Honey Drip, all these different groups, you know what I mean? New Birth, and it just keeps growing and going and going and going from there. I mean, and that's how we are where we are, you know.
Yeah, it's all relevant and the same thing, you know. I remember being a kid too, and holding my mom's 45s and all the same. It's almost like we're cut from the same cloth. I remember her showing me a baby picture of my bald head. You know, back then I was bald, and I think I'll die bald. But I had a stack of 45s, and I had the big old cans on, you know. I still got them, like, you know, I still wear those big old headphones, the big old, you know. You know, you're with the big cans on, and I got an old baby picture like that, holding a bunch of 45s in your hands. It's almost like, you know, I think the first record I bought was like Lowrider War, or actually I think it was Double Dutch Bus, or one of those, you know. Yeah, I was like, because I was hearing all the homies in the neighborhood cruising by in their cars, you know, is that right. It's like, I want that record. Or I remember wanting Genius of Love and never being able to find it. Like, Genius of Love, it was, you know, I remember watching a little video and be like, I gotta find that 45. But I know the name, I didn't know it was Genius of Love. I was looking for He Is My Boyfriend, My Lovely Boyfriend. I was singing that to the dude at the record store. He's like, I don't know what you're talking about, man.
I heard it's a similar situation. When I heard World's Famous, man, I used to listen to WHBI. And, man, when I heard that record, man, I was just like, wow, this is crazy. World's Famous Supreme Team. You know, and it's just like we have all these similar stories, like, you know, growing up. And I think the dopest thing is whatever state, whoever lives in a state, they have a similar story with a similar classic that's in their state. You know what I mean? Yeah. There's records that only were in Chicago, popular in Chicago. And I got friends in Chicago. They're like, oh, you don't know this record? I'm like, bro, I never heard that record before.
Yeah, and it was a big hit there.
But it was a huge hit in Chicago. You know what I'm saying? Same thing as New York. A lot of the New York disco classics, or a lot of the New York R&B classics, they wasn't classics anywhere else. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if anybody plays Sylvia Strickland anywhere else but New York.
Right.
You know? Like at that time, I'm talking about in the 80s.
Yeah,
you know?
no, it probably wasn't. Like I don't remember it being played.
But that's what's so dope about music and DJs and their selections and how they put records together and their thought process of what goes in, of how they put their sets together. I think that's the dopest thing, you know?
And then I could say for you, it probably was like you were falling into that pattern with those guys at the stores. Before you know it, man, you're going to like thrift stores, you're going to swap meets, you're going to like any kind of like, pop-up things where they got records, record shows, but anywhere you can get your hands on some good records.
I remember going to the Roosevelt, which Roosevelt was a huge record club in New York. And a lot of my boys, they were buying LPs, man. I was in them 45s. And it was just like, I get it. Why? Because like, if I'm going to spend $50, $60 on an album, I want to get the most out of it because I'm going to sample this shit, right? So, you got one side, if not 20 seconds on a 45, and that's where the palette begins to grow. Whereas, for a moment, I was just collecting records that had beats on them or something to sample from. But then it got to where I wanted good songs. I wanted to listen to the song. You know what I mean? Yeah,
you want to listen to the lyrics, the beats, the breaks,
the arrangements and all that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Or you start to listen to it like you were talking about that record, on my label that you want to mess with. You're listening to it like I hear all kind of different things that nobody else is hearing, and I want to capture that a certain way.
Right. And that's where it gets into the whole mixing phase of everything. You know what I'm saying? I came up in the era listening to the Last Rascals, which were amazing with edits and their thought process of doing these master mixes. So, when you're getting into sound and you're getting into production and all that kind of stuff, when you hear these records again, you're like, man, that's just dope. You know what I mean? Like they put that record up, So
yeah.
It is a trip sitting here and hearing Kenny talk about some of these things, just like we heard Renee say Supreme as a kid, and the similarities are just wild. Kenny, if you go to YouTube and you search Kenny Dope interview and you sort, by date, the very first interview you say, I have 50,000 records. The second one, you say you have 60, 70, 80. And at some point, you said, I was wrong. It's 100,000. I'm not going to ask you how many records you have, but what I'd like you to maybe tell us about is I understood that you acquired 8,000 45s in one shop. What can you tell us about that?
It's just, I'm going to tell you this. We just moved 2 years ago. From Jersey. And the collection alone was on an 18-wheeler truck. And I pack it and I box this shit myself. That's what it's
well, who else, right?
What was wild about the situation was I had in my old apartment, I had a big apartment, you know what I'm saying? I had a big place, but I didn't realize how many records were in this place alone, just this one location, right? But I had a studio with more records and I had storage with more records, right? But in the house alone, there was 50,000 records, which was crazy to me because, and believe it or not, there's 20,000 45 here. 24,000 45s alone. So this was in the crib, plus my 12 inches of my albums. Then I had records in storage, and then I had records at the studio, like all sample material, inspiration stuff with drums on them, just things to listen to, when you're trying to be creative or whatever the case may be. Then I have my label stuff, which is like a whole nother stack.
Yeah.
And online store too. So that's another stack. So it's just like, it was crazy, but
yeah, you got your inventory.
I didn't realize that I had that much. But when you start to buy,
I really start to look at it, man, like Man, I'm never gonna be able to listen to these records, man.
You know what's crazy is during, you know, this whole COVID thing, really, this was the time I didn't go out. I stayed home. I didn't do no streams. I didn't do nothing. I was home with the family and the kids, and that's when I started to enjoy the collection because
Yeah.
able to tap into it and play music.
Yeah.
Then at the same time, you know, I got contracted to do the Apple shows. So it was like, it was perfect time because I'm home, I'm doing nothing. And now I could play whatever I want. So that's what so that whole thing started to flourish like that. And like I said, it was the first time that you actually go back to those common albums and play those common albums and find dope cuts on them because you bought it for something. I bought it to something to sample from, but there's a really dope album. You know what I'm saying? So it's just crazy. It's just crazy how things happen. But you know, unfortunately, it was a weird time for all of us those last 2.5 years because all of us lost people, regardless, whoever, you know, we all lost people, right? But for me, it was the first time in a long time that I was home for that period of time. I've never been home for 2.5 years straight in 30 years. This hasn't happened. You know what I'm saying? I'm always on the traveling or whatever. So it was a good time for me to reconnect with myself, reconnect with, you know, just build, you know.
Dope.
Very cool. So, you know, again, going back to similarities, what we saw in the California scene was a lot of these collectors in their youth maybe tagging along with brothers, going to record shows, stores, going out of state to Chicago to find lost gems. Now, I know that you had a wild digging episode with Jazzy Jeff and Dilla. Are there any go-to guys when it comes to Soul 45s that are your go-to, and can you share any stories?
Presently, no. As far as like a go-to guy that has soul stuff, you know what I'm saying? Like I'm interested. Me and Mike just spoke the other day about me going to Cali, and I'm interested just to kind of, from his perspective, you know what I'm saying, play me some stuff, and then hopefully one day when he comes out east, I could do the same thing and share with him some stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I feel there's a big record. I feel there's a big record going to be coming out, you know, one day that me and you produce. I really feel that, you know, put your end on it, my end process on it, write something together, and come out with some big ass banger.
Yeah,
you know, I really feel that.
That's a no-brainer, bro. That's just us connecting and connecting the dots and making it happen. Because in the studio, forget about it. That's a whole nother animal there. You know, let's get the players together and let's get busy. You know, we're not gonna come out with just one joint. We'll come out that bitch with an album, guaranteed, in 3 or 4 days. Because that's just how it happens. Everything's spurred of moment.
All the creative juices start rolling, and it just.
I commit. I'm one of those producers that commit. I don't second guess stuff. I'm like, oh, that shit sounds dope. All right, let's go. Let's run. I could already be having them playing stuff and running through different arrangements. In my head, I already know what I'm gonna do with that. You know what I'm saying? So that's a given. Let's get it cracking for sure on that.
Yeah, I'm down.
I love that.
But as far, but to answer your question, I think I want to go back maybe 12, maybe 15 years ago. Keb Dodge was
Uncle Keb.
He was a huge influence on me going to see him play, just for the simple fact that he didn't give a fuck. You know, honestly, he played a record from here. You like it or you don't. You're gonna dance or you're not, and that was his whole thing. You know what I'm saying? And
yeah,
just by going and see, when I would try to align my shows when he was doing his party, so I could just go to his parties and just chill. And he showed me a lot of stuff. You know what I'm saying? Yeah,
he's very knowledgeable individual for sure.
Crazy knowledgeable, and what's bugged out about the whole situation with Kev is he played these records when they were brand new, before they came out in '67, like, you know, in '70, in '72, in '74. So it's like everybody's like, oh, well, you know, he's playing rockabilly now. You know what? He done played them joints for 30-some years. Like, what, you know what I'm saying? Like, you can't knock him for wanting to move on. Mm-hmm. Like, you know, and he birthed deep funk. He birthed that. That was his.
Yeah.
And I'm just a student, and I'm just passing it along. So my generation and the people under me, younger than me, can hear that.
Yeah.
But that funk is kept Dodge. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Don't I'm not trying to, that's his shit. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
But Keb again, soul, modern soul, deep funk.
He went to rockabilly, then now he's in the garage. He's big in the garage thing.
Dude, I was just right before, I would say probably 3 years ago, we were in Japan, and I went to him at a club, and he was playing some garage shit, but it was like dope, like real dope garage shit, and I'm just like, I never thought of myself like, yeah. But I'm listening to the beat, I'm listening to the bass line, you know what I mean? And it was just like, so, you know, he turned me on to a few of them joints, but I'm not ready for that yet. I'm not ready for it yet.
Yeah, you know, yeah, for sure.
I'm still, I like my deep soul. I like my ballads. I've been heavily into my ballads lately. I don't know if it's because I'm, you know, in my 50s now, so I'm in ballad mode. You know what I mean? The slow, low rider mode.
Well, even the Brits are getting into the ballads, man. Like I get people buying our site. They're buying all the British guys are buying a bunch of our ballads. Like, all right, that's great. But you gotta think about it, man. Most of them are in their 70s or late 60s, and their dancing days are over, bro. Now it's time to just sit down and have a glass of wine and drop the needle on it.
Yo, like again, it's just your palette changes. You know what I'm saying? You constantly evolving. Constantly evolving with the music takes. You know what I'm saying? And then when you have collections that you could actually dip into, it's even that much more beautiful, you know?
Kenny, what's one thing you learned from Keb that you've just taken with you as a collector?
Just being open-minded.
Okay.
You know, and I've always been open-minded, but you know, because I've been into so many different styles.
He's another realm. Like Keb's another realm of open-minded.
Yeah, but Keb's a teacher. He, you know, a beautiful person.
Oh yeah,
he's down. We've gotten into like wars in London. You know, not me and him. Like he's down. Like if it's time to fight, like he gets busy. Like we.
Oh yeah.
In
this
London,
guy, this is one individual I would never want to fight.
Nah, but yo, no joke. Like he's down. Like let's get busy. You know,
people told me to be kicking at his pad, to be drinking beers, and he's out there like doing all this karate shit.
Yeah, nothing but love for him, but that's my big brother. But yeah, just playing from the heart, man. Just seeing him and not giving a fuck. Like he don't care. Like he's gonna play something that he feels, and that's it. You're gonna like it or not, you know, and that's it, you know. And like I said, being from Brooklyn, we have the same kind of mentality, and that's why we clicked. But I think he saw my eagerness to wanting to actually learn more. You know what I'm saying? Because that's my thing. I always feel like we're constantly learning. You know what I mean? Every day we're learning about another group, about a musician, about another arranger. You know, I just hate the fact when people say, "Oh, you know, you got everything." I'm like, no, I have a lot of records, but I don't have everything.
Yeah.
There's, you know, we still want to learn. You know what I'm saying? And there's room. Can you imagine you put all of the biggest diggers collections together? Everybody has different music, right? How much music is that much more? You know what I'm saying? So, and especially the years that we love. You know, it's crazy. So
that's fantastic.
yeah,
That's awesome. You know, you were quoted as saying there's an art to digging. And I'd love it if you could compare and contrast what it's like to dig for records in the state compared to overseas in Europe and so on like that. But more importantly, what kind of trends and game changers have you seen as a collector over the course of your career?
Man, I've seen, you know, well, the first thing is, let me say this. It was in my rider to go to shops out the airport in the car to the shops, then to the hotel. Countries. Because again, like I was just saying, I wanted to learn about Italian, you know, psych shit. I wanted to learn about the French. I wanted to learn about, you know, what was happening in Sweden, what was happening in Germany. You know, I love library music as well too, like soundtracks. So those countries have some real dope library albums. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
London as well too. Like, you know, so that was the first thing of wanting to learn that side of things, and that going straight to the shops. You know, I think the internet has been a blessing and a curse. But the simple fact is, we could type in something and it'll come up. Like you said, you look for something, boom, boom, you know whatever. Then there's some of us that know a lot of B-sides. We'll get over on stuff because things are priced because of the opposite side. But meanwhile, we want the other side, right? But then at the same time, there's sites that really just go crazy, and the prices are really, you know, astronomical and out of this world, right? But then you have the internet. We wouldn't be able to do this right now. You wouldn't meet fellow like-minded producers, DJs, artists. So it's like the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But for me, for the young kids, there's nothing like going to a record store and looking at album covers. Not to dig on YouTube, which I know a lot of people do. And listen, that's your thing, whatever, that's cool. But if you're into this music and you want to learn about the music, there's no other type of feeling to be in a shop and pull out something really crazy. You know what I'm saying? Or look at the jacket and be like, you know what, this is interesting. Let me listen to this. You know, on one of my digging trips, and this was actually in New York, it wasn't overseas, but I was up in the Bronx, and we happened to go to this one store, and it was a bunch of us, and it was winter, it was snowing. They pulled me out of my house. I didn't want to go out. I didn't want to go digging or whatever. But they're like, yo, we're gonna go uptown, whatever. I'm like, all right, I'll go for the ride. So this is actually when I found my Skull Snaps 45. I went down. The basement had like these flies, like this big, like I don't know what. So steps. I had, so just look at this picture. I had a hoodie on. I had shorts, basketball shorts, and pants on, right? Because I was like chilling in my house, right? So I go down to this basement. Yo, the water was up to my waist when I went down to the last step. So all I did was reach over, and I said, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to just go to it was the wall of 45, but I couldn't really reach it because of all the water and boxes and the flies. I was like, nah, I'm not fucking with it. So I pulled out, the first record I pulled out was It's a New Day, original press, vinyl. And I was like, all right, I'm done. I went upstairs and I went to the truck. Everybody was like, yo. I'm like, I'm done. I found my pick for the day. I'm good. Everybody was mad. But what's crazy is that store was Grand Groove Records. You remember that label?
Yeah.
Hip hop label, Grand Groove. Remember Catch the Beat, T-Ski Valley?
No.
Well, that's that label, Grand Groove.
Oh, okay.
That was their store.
Huh.
And yeah, it was crazy, man. It was just like.
So why was it underwater? What was the deal with that?
Man, I don't know. I wasn't asking no questions. I said, how much for the record? He said $12. I was like, all right, here you go. I'm in the truck. It was just flooded with water.
What does it smell like?
Like,
Smell bad.
yo, it was just like nasty. But I was just like, they dragged me out of my house. We're in this record store. They're upstairs looking at 12 inches. I'm like, I don't really want no 12 inches. You know what I'm saying? And and I went downstairs and I was like, hey, but that's digging for you. You know what I'm saying? But
But that's what you're talking about with the kids. You know, they don't until you experience the threat, or until you experience the work for, or to go, you know, go dig and really like touch something and go get it yourself. You ain't gonna have that same feeling like if you bought it on Discogs.
And 45s is not for nothing. That's the hardest format to dig, man.
Yeah, because most of them are just landfill.
I love looking at labels.
Yeah,
Love that, but going through them is the worst shit in the world.
oh, yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah, because you go through mountains of Perry Comos and Bing Crosby's and, you know,
fucking
Kitty Lester's. I'm sure you've seen a few Kitty Lester records.
All this bullshit, and I'm like, man, I'm not ready for that. You know what I'm saying? So that I'm country, I'm not listening to. Sorry. You know what I mean? But yeah, it goes without saying. But now the digging overseas is always been dope. I never really went to any of the shows, like the huge shows in Holland or Amsterdam.
Sure.
I still want to go to one of them. You know what I mean? But I do remember going to Camden Market, and Camden Market was dope when the whole groove scene was happening. They would sell these cassettes, and it was just rare groove records, like little compilations. And not for nothing, I learned a lot of stuff from listening to those cassettes and buying those cassettes. And the one who used to sell those cassettes was Jazzman. Have you ever heard of Jazzman?
Gerald Jazzman.
Yes. So he used to be in the market, and he used to have records, and then he would sell cassettes, you know. And yeah, so there's a lot of history with that.
Kenny, are you cool with Malachi Trout?
Yes.
You know Malachi. All right, very dope.
I buy from him. I support his label. I got his label on the store. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So he does a lot of reissues, and I know him for a long time too. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So let me ask you this. I've heard a lot of great collectors come and say, it's not the records that pass through the hands, but the people we meet along the way. Was there anyone you met overseas that really stands out?
As far as what? What side of it, though? Production, records, like...
The records.
And DJing. As far as collections?
Yeah.
Overseas? I gotta say Phil Asher. He was a good friend of mine. He actually passed away a couple of years ago. But he was very forward thinking, and he had a lot of great records and a lot of just a spectrum like ours. Like he listened to hip hop. He was part of the whole broken beat scene. Mm-hmm. He played house music, of course. He played disco. He had a great sense of knowledge of music as well, too. Not crazy into 45s, but music in general, the spectrum of music. I got to say, and we clicked and we were friends, you know, the whole time, you know what I'm saying? And every time I went to London, I always checked him. He came to check me. He would pick me up. We would go eat, you know what I mean? He was one special dude. Pete from BBE Records, another guy who I became really, really close to and were really good friends. He has a label called BBE Records. He does a lot of compilations and stuff like that. Really good guy too, you know.
Very cool. I appreciate that. Let's see here. You know, I think what really moved me most about you is your desire to want to push the music forward. You talked about losing genres over the years because people kept the music close to them. You know, I think even the genesis for KD Records was because you were spinning one night and kids were asking you, "What's that record?"
Right.
And you said, "That's a $1,500 record. This one's a $3,000 record." And you wanted to make the records available and affordable so that people could hear that music, embrace it, and just keep pushing it forward. I'd like to ask you, what do you say to new and existing collectors in a day where we're seeing original presses sky high and purist talk can sometimes, you know, discourage a new collector from going for a reissue or a repress? What's your feeling on bootlegs, and what's the message you would tell to these collectors?
Well, let's now that you're on that topic, there's a few factors involved with that. Why records are so expensive, you know what I'm saying? Whereas, like, you know, when I was coming up, a single was $3 at that, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. I was trying to tell him $5 was a lot of money to pay for a single.
That was a lot of money back then. You know, a 12-inch was $2.99. Saying? So, but you got to think about it like this. You know, at that time, these records were being pressed 50,000, 60,000, 100,000, right?
Mm-hmm.
Today, you know, you got a kid who makes a record, and we get him offered all the time. He's pressing 200 records. And I'm like, you're pressing 200? You're not going to make your money back. So, so instead, I have to buy the record for him for $12 or $13 or $15, right? Now, we got it done, and then we're going to put our price on it. You know what I'm saying? But initially, on the business side of things, you have your mastering, you have your lacquer, you have your plating costs, you have your labels. If you do a custom jacket, if you don't, if you do it in a white sleeve, whatever the case, you do colored vinyl, you do splatter. Now your prices just keeps going up and up and up and up.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, you think I want to sell on my store? Think I want to sell a $35 45
mm-hmm.
or $30 45? I don't want to sell records that high. But if I'm paying 26 for it or 22 for it, you understand what I'm saying? I got to pay to the shipping costs to come in. You know what I'm saying? And we got to package it. So there's a lot of variables that go down with records being high now. You know what I'm saying? But I also that there's a lot of labels that are pressing records that don't even know what this art form is. You know, they don't know the first thing about, you know, getting your record mastered correctly. You're not mastering off of MP3s. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can tell when you put down a record, you know, I could anyway. And I feel bad sometimes, you know, and it's just like, damn, they pressed this off like this, you know what I'm saying? So there's so many different things happening right now with this vinyl because people just want vinyl records.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's the medium, right? You know,
no,
I put it 8 months, you know what I'm saying? So it's like 6 to 8 months to get one record.
Yeah.
So how do you run your business this way? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's a tough one. You know what I mean? Of why records are high. You know, and sometimes when there's 150 of a record and it's $50 a piece, and you like it, it is what it is. There's only 150 of those, and you know what? They're not going to repress it,
right?
Because the repress might come 2 years from now. Seriously, but it's
we usually have, like, between production time, making the record, you know, studio work. I mean, I could give you a list like a mile long why a record that we would sell, like we saw a record out the gate at 25, and people don't realize, I mean, just the pressing cost is like $4 or $5, but that is nothing compared to what I put into the record to get it to that point. Like, jump another 10 on top of that, or 8 at least, you know, we're in these things at like $14, $15.
Mm-hmm.
And then we still haven't even packed the record yet. We haven't put it in a little package, you know. But I mean, I think records in general, like soul records, if they're originals, all that stuff's gone crazy because all these guys that heard the OG that are purists, they want the OG. And then you got a guy who will come out of the reissue, whether it's, you know, 2 months from now, or it's going to come out in a year, or it's already out. Man, it could, like, look at the record he got, the Vast Corporation. I mean, that record, I mean, it's $150 now. I was buying them off Kenny for what, $12, $6, whatever they were on his site, you know, just a few years back. I remember ordering like 30 pieces because I was flipping them for 20. You know, guys like, I don't know, where are you getting these records? Like, I'm just ordering right off KD's label. Nothing scientific about it, man. I'm buying them for, I think it was like $8 and selling them for $15, you know. But now Kenny's out of them, and guys want it still, and he has a repress. So I mean, it's a $150 record.
It's crazy because those records were costing like under $1 to make at that time. We're talking 12, 15, 20 years ago. You know what I'm saying? Oh yeah. But it's like now, for you to get a 45, you're in, like Mike said, you're in $2, $3, $4, $5 for into it. Then you make a special colored vinyl splatter, whatever the case may be. You're in, and then, you know, let's be real. You got to factor in the musicians. You got to factor in, you know, your advance you paid your vocalists and stuff like that. And people don't understand that part. They don't get it. Like, why is this record so expensive? You know what I'm saying? But yeah, like, you know, the rare stuff, shit, I've paid up to $700 for a record. Yeah. I mean, it's gotten to where, I mean, records, guys call me and say, how much is that record? It's a $100 record. Like, I don't know. Well, I just paid $700 for my copy. And I'm like, why? They're like, because I wanted it. But there's things out there that are just that rare. Yeah. There's just that rare. There's very little copies out there. You're gonna spend $800, spend $500. You know, you're just gonna do it. You know. Yeah. And there's no reissues. So yeah, some of this stuff there's just no reissues. I mean, there's, put it this way. I was telling Wax I could go through boxes of records, and there's so many great records and almost nothing's reissued. Almost nothing. Very few. Because people don't know the records. I mean, yeah, you can YouTube it if you know the title. Yeah. I always say YouTube is good as what you type into it. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Because if you don't type it in, you ain't finding shit. Yeah, man, you can go through those little like videos and watch the little, you know, they got their little what do they call that? Their selection of their videos they put up. But I mean, that's one guy. You know, there's so many songs, man. There's not enough time in the day. My mom used to say that. There's not enough hours in the day for you to hear all the music, man. It's just you could start now until the time you die. You ain't gonna hear almost nothing. Well, you said something key right now. Before you said there was a stack of music that wasn't reissued that you know in your collection. Like I was saying earlier, right? Like there's so much music in general. Yeah, we just don't know that it's just there to learn about. You know what I'm saying? That's the dopest thing about this whole thing. You know? Yeah, yeah. Kenny, what inspired you to do 45 Fridays? Actually, 45 Fridays was me, DJ Scratch, DJ Spinner, and we were just posting rare shit. You know what I'm saying? Just records that we wanted to post. You know what I mean? That's what started it. And then everybody kind of just fizzled out. And then when you know, we moved, and then we came, and I was like, you know what? We were during pandemic time, and I was like, you know what? There's dope records on the site. Let me just start posting records that are on the site. And that was it. And that's keep going from there. Very cool. We have one last question before the lightning round, but I'd love it if we could maybe kick off show and tell. Did you have some records you wanted to talk about, show us, share, that kind of thing? He says, I got a lot of records. What, you want me to play some? If you want. If you got something that you could pull out that you like, man, the show and tell, if you got it. Or you can just show us the label. It's cool. Show and tell. We got a lot of show and tell in here. Yeah, man. It looks like about 30 or 40,000 behind you, man. You're probably sitting in front of some stacks. All right. He's like, all right. Bootsy Collins. Early Bootsy Collins.
All right.
All right. You want first?
Go for it.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Wow.
House guest. Nice.
Clean label.
Love the design. Yeah.
Actually, there's a record on this label by Gloria Taylor. That Mike, right up your alley.
Yes. Paula talked about Gloria Taylor.
Yeah.
Let me know if it's too loud.
Sounds good.
I love this shit.
Wow.
Mission Impossible.
Mm. Mama, there goes that man.
You gotta hear the change.
Mm.
Outro. Such a producer.
We could do this all, but yo, not for nothing. Hold on. Another crazy record.
Kenny, I see you're getting warmed up right now. I can see it.
We could do this shit all day, man. This is for the Latin roots.
Okay.
Right.
This record here is called A Galleton, right? This label Americana was Salsoul Records Latin division. But check out how this record flips.
So maybe Joe Bataan was involved.
Yeah.
Check out this record, how it starts.
Congas.
Is it clear? You can hear it?
Yeah. Woo.
Dale. ¿Cuál es la diferencia que hay? ¿Cuál es la diferencia que hay? ¿Cuál es la diferencia que hay entre galleta y galleto?
Wow. He's the whole game right there.
Damn.
Damn, that's nice.
Take my money.
crazy, man.
I got my piano out. Romeo. Let's keep going there.
But one of the new records too, like what Mike's doing and stuff like that. I really love this record, man, by the Sacred Souls.
Ooh, we had the Sacred Souls on.
Can I Call You Rose?
Yeah. That's the one.
Yeah, that's the joint.
That joint there, I gotta play it because it's just
Wait,
crazy.
Kenny.
What's up?
I need you to keep that to about 15 seconds.
Why is that?
Because if a song like that,
Oh yeah, they'll kick us off. They'll kick us off.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, man, they'll kick us off.
Hold on.
It's one of those. What do they call it? It's already licensed up to be no sharing.
Come on, man. This is crazy.
Can I call you Rose?
Woo!
'Cause your fragrance takes over the room. Darling.
That's the cut. Josh, man. Josh, the lead singer, he's really got a distinctive sound, man. Yeah, Roth and them, they wrote it. Roth produced it.
Man, tell them dudes.
Yeah, Sal and Josh, man, those guys, insane, man.
Dope.
Yeah.
Kenny, thank you so much. You know, we really appreciate show and tell, and those were some great records there.
Yeah, man.
For our last question before the lightning round, I usually ask.
What's the lightning round?
Yeah, it's pretty easy.
Kenny, you declined the agenda, the minute-by-minute agenda, and the questions that I sent to all 70 guests.
I don't do that. I don't do that. Like, I think the best interview is when it's like freestyle, and when the questions, like, listen, at the end of the day, the interviewer, if you give me good questions and stuff, you get a great interview. When you don't, you get a shit interview. You know what I'm saying? That's just how it goes.
Yeah.
I don't like knowing the questions.
Yeah, it's almost like I like it like that too.
I don't want to think about that shit all like when
yeah.
Days ago, I don't want to be thinking about days like, yo, I'm gonna say this and I'm gonna say, nah, man, fuck that. Like, let's just do it. So this lightning thing, I don't know what this lightning thing's about, but all right.
You got it. You got this. I already know.
So before we get there, the last question I would like to ask you is, can you tell us why you collect and what keeps you searching for that next record? What moves you most?
Learning new music. I've said it numerous of times. It's just about, like I said, you know, your palette keeps growing. You keep wanting to know new records. I'm interested in knowing more records, just for inspiration, to collect.
Yeah, that's for everybody. I think all the collectors, it's just that whole new experience with that new song is always going to be that motivation, because, man, there's so much out there. The guy that loses is the guy that says, I heard it already. I already heard I heard that. I heard this. But wait, have you heard this? Yeah, I already heard that. But what about that? Like, nah, I don't want to learn. So the guy that don't want to learn, or the guy that want to move to open his palette to more and more and more, he's not really a true collector or a true, enthusiast for this, But if you leave your mind open, man, like I said, you're never gonna have enough time in the day to find the next track.
Bro, we're still students, man. It's, at the end of the day, it's like, man, this is what it is. Like, for somebody to say, I know everything, man, please. That's when you just.
I gotta get away from people like that.
You know what I mean? Because it's like, yo, if I'm still fucking with this shit,
yeah,
and still loving it, and still hungry, and still want to learn more, and you're gonna sit here 30 years old telling me, get the fuck out of here. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, I get them all the time, man. They know it all. and they're 90s babies,
We're learning, man. Every day we're learning about something else. There's a different jacket we're looking at. There's a label. You're getting a fucking group like this coming out. Like, come on, man. Like,
yeah,
crazy.
I think that the whole new modern scene, it's great because it keeps the music alive, and there's a lot of dope ass shit that's coming out, man. I've been hearing some shit that's just like, whoa, like that's what I'm happy about. There's a lot of stuff that's watered down and like, you know, it's like it is what it is, but there's a lot of stuff like, wow, like I can't imagine like what was going through these guys' head. This thing sounds like 1973, you know, it's like perfect, you know.
The perfect answer to that is just like we're studying and we study, they're studying too. But they're studying from a whole arrangement perspective, from a music perspective. They're like, oh shit, like we like this music. Like, okay, so let's try to replicate it, but let's make it ours. You know,
and they're doing good. There's a lot of artists right now that are doing a great job, man.
I'm searching all the time for them type of groups, man, because I just want to hear it. I just, you know what I'm saying?
Awesome.
What are they saying about the record store dealers? Somebody said something about a record store dealer. Sopranos?
Hold on.
What'd he say?
He said, and record store dealers. Man, I'm scrolling deep now.
Well, that's kind of like what I always been is like a record store dealer because, you know, producing and all that stuff came later. I was always a dealer.
I'm scared to go to your shop. You're going to pull out some bangers. I'm like, oh, man.
Yeah, people run out of money before we run out of records.
All right, let's kick this lightning round off. So
here we go with the lightning bolts.
Yeah. All right, 10 one-word quick, or I'm sorry, 8, quick answers. First up, LP or 45?
45.
When you think a really dope album art, what's the first album cover that comes to mind?
Bob James, 1.
Okay, love that. When playing a 45, which side do you play first, A or B?
Whatever side's the best. I don't know.
Good answer, good answer. Which is worse, a warped record or a scratched record?
Both.
Biggest record you've ever scored?
Biggest record? Price tag or what?
Yeah, price tag.
Oh, man. I don't know, man. I'm drawing blanks right now. Blank.
Okay.
Yeah, fucking Hollywood.
I just saw the Family Feud, man, with the X.
Yeah.
We got to get that on for season 2. What's something you listen to that might surprise us?
Yeah, music-wise.
Something that might surprise you. For me, I don't think anything's gonna surprise you just because of who I am.
Yeah.
You know, as a person, as a producer, as a DJ.
I mean, 50s country. Do you listen to that?
But
well, we've had guys
Spice
say
Girls?
like Spice Girls.
Nah, I could a funny Spice Girl story though.
We got time for that. Forget the lightning round. Let's go back to the chat.
So on the remixing side of things, right? We were doing our thing in the 90s, and you know they came out and they wanted a Masters at Work remix, and we were like, okay, send us the record, and we were like, so we got the record, and we were like, no, pass. Why? And it was a lot of money. No, but there's nothing in the record that's inspiring me to want to remix this song. Same thing with Louis. So if we listen to it, it don't matter how much money it is, we got to hear something in the song for us to do the mix. Mm-hmm. But at that time, they just wanted dubs. At that time, our dubs were new records because they had nothing to do with the original song. So anyway, we pass. 6 months later, they come back with another song. We're like, nope, pass. So then finally, Missy did this record with them. And she was like, yo, guys, like, this is going to be the 3rd time you passed on the girls or whatever. They feel really bad and blah, 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 blah. So finally we did it. So it's crazy. Like 3 years ago in Ibiza, I see one of them. Right? She comes up to me. Hey, Kenny. She's like, you finally did a record for us after 3 times. And I was dying laughing because I felt so bad too, man. I was just like, but I was like, look, you know, you got to understand from my point. And I was realizing it was really, you guys were so pop